The stars looked different from the bridge of the Defiance. Captain William Carter stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. Today would change human history forever. After centuries of wondering if they were alone in the universe, humanity had their answer. They were not alone, and today they would meet the most powerful civilization known to exist. "How long until we reach the meeting point?" William asked, his voice calm despite the tension in his shoulders. Lieutenant Mary Jones checked her console. 20 minutes, sir. The Zarkonian vessel is already waiting." William nodded. The small fleet of 5 human ships represented the best technology Earth had to offer. Still, intelligence reports suggested the Zarkonian Empire was centuries ahead. Their empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy and included over 30 different alien species. "Admiral Brooks is requesting to speak with you," said Communications Officer Peter Johnson. "Put her through," William replied. Admiral Susan Brooks appeared on the main screen. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and worry lines creased her forehead. "Captain Carter, have your team reviewed the first contact protocols?" "Yes, Admiral. Lieutenant Alan Foster has prepared extensive linguistic and cultural briefings. Dr. Olivia Mason has medical and biological contingencies covered. We're as ready as we can be." Susan's expression remained serious. "I don't need to tell you how important this meeting is. The United Earth Coalition is counting on us to make a good impression. We need allies, not enemies." "Understood, Admiral. We'll make Earth proud." After the call ended, William turned to his first officer, Commander Jack Hill. "Jack, what's your gut feeling about all this?" Jack frowned. "Honestly, it seems too good to be true. The Zarkonians reach out to us, a species they've never met, and immediately offer technological exchange." "I share your concerns," William said quietly, "but we have our orders." As the Defiance approached the meeting point, they got their first clear view of the Zarkonian flagship. It was massive, at least 5 times larger than Earth's biggest vessel. Its sleek, curved design suggested advanced engineering beyond human understanding. Smaller ships surrounded it like moons orbiting a planet. "They're hailing us," Peter announced. "On screen," William ordered, straightening his uniform. The alien that appeared was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue with faint, scale-like patterns. Large black eyes studied William with unsettling intelligence. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am High Commander Vexlar of the Zarkonian Empire. We welcome you to Galactic Society." Alan Foster stepped forward, handling the translation equipment. Though the Zarkonians had provided translation software, he had insisted on bringing human versions as backup. "High Commander, I am Captain William Carter of the United Earth Coalition. We are honored to meet you and look forward to peaceful relations between our peoples." The meeting moved to the Zarkonian flagship. William led a small team including Susan, Alan, Olivia, and Security Chief Greg Nelson. The interior of the alien ship was breathtaking. Corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked, gravity that adjusted perfectly to their comfort, and technology that appeared to operate on thought alone. In a vast chamber with walls displaying real-time star maps, Vexler and his advisors waited. Among them were representatives of other species, evidence of the Empire's diversity. As the diplomatic talks began, William noticed how the Zarkonians seemed particularly interested in human biology. They asked numerous questions about Earth's environment, human physical capabilities, and social structures. "Your species evolved on a high-gravity world with significant atmospheric oxygen," one Zarkonian scientist noted. "This explains your robust physical structure." During a brief recess, Olivia pulled William aside. "Captain, they've been scanning us constantly since we arrived. Not just passive scans, they're taking detailed biological readings." "Curiosity about a new species?" William suggested, though he felt uneasy. "Perhaps," Olivia replied, "but they seem especially interested in our stress responses and muscle density." Alan joined them, looking troubled. "There's something off about their translation matrix. I'm detecting subtle discrepancies. words with multiple meanings being consistently interpreted in ways that favor their perspective. William absorbed this information with growing concern. Keep watching, but don't show alarm. We need this alliance. The talks continued through what felt like Earth's standard day. The Zarkonians offered impressive technological exchanges, faster-than-light drive improvements, energy generation systems, and medical advancements. In return, they requested access to Earth's natural resources and permission to establish bases in the solar system. When the human delegation finally returned to their ship, William called an immediate secure meeting. Assessment? He asked his team. Greg spoke first. Their security is impressive but focused on containment rather than protection. Every room had multiple hidden barriers that could be activated instantly. Olivia opened her datapad. Their scanning was excessive, sir. They now have complete biological profiles of every human on our team. I also noticed they were particularly interested when I mentioned human adaptability to different environments. The translation issues continued, Alan added. For example, when they described cooperative mining operations, the original Zarkonian phrase could also mean extraction of valuable assets. Susan frowned deeply. My military assessment is that their ship has significantly more weapons capability than initially appeared. Those sensor arrays are disguised weapons platforms. William took a deep breath. So we all feel the same. There's something they're not telling us. The journey back to Earth was tense. William spent hours reviewing recordings of the meeting, looking for clues he might have missed. The Zarkonian offers were generous, too generous. Why would an advanced empire share so much with a species they just met? When they arrived at Earth, the United Earth Coalition Council was eager for their report. Director Nathan Reeves of Earth Intelligence met them before the formal debriefing. We intercepted some Zarkonian communications while you were gone, Nathan said without preamble. Our linguists only understand portions, but enough to be concerned. They referred to Earth as acquisition target, and humans as viable labor. Resource? William's heart sank. They're not looking for allies. They're looking for conquest. It appears so, Nathan confirmed. The council is divided. Some believe we should accept Zarkonian technology regardless of their intentions, to better prepare ourselves. That would be a mistake, Susan said firmly. If they're planning to conquer us, accepting their technology means accepting their Trojan horses. The debate raged through Earth's leadership for weeks. William testified about his misgivings, but many counselors were seduced by the promise of advanced technology. Humanity had always dreamed of the stars. Now the path seemed open before them. The decision came too late. 57 days after first contact, the long-range outpost near Neptune detected a massive fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel. It wasn't the diplomatic vessel promised by the Zarkonians. It was an invasion force, and Hope Colony, humanity's furthest settlement, went silent within hours. The Empire's first war with humans had begun. Hope Colony shook as another explosion hit the outer defense grid. Major Patricia Rodriguez wiped dust from her eyes and looked at the damage report on her tablet. It wasn't good. 3 of the 5 defense stations were already gone. The colony, home to nearly 10,000 humans on a planet 12 light-years from Earth, had never expected to be a battlefield. How many ships are still ready for evacuation? Patricia asked her second-in-command, Lieutenant Frank Howard. 7 transports, ma'am. They can take about 6,000 people if we pack them tight. Patricia closed her eyes briefly. Not enough for everyone. Begin loading civilians immediately. Priority to children, medical personnel, and scientists. Outside the command bunker, chaos ruled. The Zarkonian ships had appeared without warning 3 hours ago. Their weapons tore through Hope Colony's defenses like paper. Now they're ground. Forces were landing. Strange mechanical walkers and blue-skinned soldiers in advanced armor. In orbit, Zarkonian General Thrax watched the battle from his command ship. Next to him stood his science officer, Kelvar. The human resistance is stronger than expected, Kelvar noted, studying the battle data. They've already destroyed 2 of our landing craft. Thrax made a dismissive gesture. Primitive weapons getting lucky shots. This colony will fall before the day ends. What matters is collecting enough specimens for study. On the ground, combat engineer Lisa Warren worked frantically to keep the colony's power grid functioning. Without power, the evacuation ships couldn't launch. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as sweat dripped down her face. "Lisa, we need to go," shouted her assistant Ben Porter. "Zarkonians are less than a mile from this facility." 2 more minutes, Lisa replied without looking up. "I need to reroute the main power conduits or the launch bays will be useless." In another part of the colony, communications officer Kevin Collins helped terrified civilians board an evacuation ship. The Zarkonian bombardment had destroyed the main residential dome, forcing people to run through the thin atmosphere of the planet with emergency breath masks. "Keep moving," Kevin urged, lifting a small child into the ship's airlock. "We need to fill this transport to capacity." An explosion rocked the ground nearby. Kevin looked up to see 3 Zarkonian walkers approaching, their weapons charging. He pulled out his service pistol, knowing it would do little against the alien machines. "Get that ship sealed and launched now," he shouted to the pilot inside. The transport's engines flared to life as Kevin and a handful of colony security forces fired at the approaching walkers. Their shots bounced harmlessly off the alien armor. Kevin kept firing until something hot struck his side, and darkness took him. Back at the command bunker, Patricia received word that the 4th evacuation ship had successfully launched. "That's nearly 4,000 civilians safely away," Frank reported. "But the Zarkonians have taken the South Launch Complex. We've only got one operating launch site left." Patricia nodded grimly. "Have all remaining civilians redirect to the North Complex. Security teams will create a defensive corridor." She activated her comlink. "This is Major Rodriguez to all military personnel. Our mission is now clear. Hold the North Launch Complex at all costs to allow remaining civilian ships to escape." In the power facility, Lisa finally completed her work. The rerouted power lines would keep the North Launch Complex functioning for at least 2 more hours. She wiped her dirty hands on her uniform. "Done. Now we can go." As she and Ben rushed toward the exit, the building shook violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed, crushing Ben beneath it. Lisa cried out, rushing to help him, but it was too late. His eyes stared blankly at nothing. With tears streaming down her face, Lisa grabbed his data tablet and her own equipment bag. The tablet contained all the sensor readings they had collected during the attack, valuable information about Zarkonian weapons and tactics. She had to get it back to Earth. The path to the North Launch Complex was hell. Zarkonian soldiers swept through the colony streets, capturing humans when possible and killing those who resisted. Lisa kept to the maintenance tunnels, moving beneath the main battle. Twice she had to hide as alien search parties passed. When she finally reached the launch complex, only one ship remained, a small research vessel designed for a crew of 6. "You're the last one," said the security guard at the entrance. His uniform was covered in blood and he could barely stand. "Everyone else who made it is already aboard the last transport. It launched 5 minutes ago." "What about the Major? The rest of the command staff?" The guard shook his head. "They held the line at Section 4. None of them made it." Lisa swallowed hard and boarded the small ship. Her engineering training included basic pilot certification, enough to get the ship into space. Whether she could navigate all the way back to Earth was another question. In his command ship, General Thrax received news of the human transports escaping the planet. "Should we pursue?" asked his weapons officer. Thrax considered for a moment. "No. Those ships are slow and unarmed. Our fleet in the Earth system will intercept them. Focus on securing the colony and processing the humans we've captured." Among those captured was Kevin Collins, barely alive from his wounds. Zarkonian medics treated him, not from compassion, but to ensure he survived for questioning. When he regained consciousness, he found himself in a sterile white room, secured to a table. "The human is awake," a Zarkonian voice said. "Begin the interrogation." Hours of painful questioning followed. The Zarkonians wanted to know about Earth's defenses, human military capabilities, and government structure. Kevin told them nothing, Useful, despite the pain. Humans are more resilient than expected, noted the Zarkonian scientist observing the interrogation. Their pain threshold exceeds our initial estimates. Meanwhile, Lisa managed to pilot her small ship out of the planet's atmosphere. Zarkonian ships were still in orbit, but they seemed focused on landing more troops rather than watching for escaping vessels. Her ship's small size helped. It barely registered on most scanners. As she prepared for the faster-than-light jump that would begin her journey to Earth, Lisa looked back at the planet she had called home for 3 years. Fires were visible, even from space, marking the locations of Hope Colony's once thriving habitation domes. "They'll pay for this," she whispered, activating the FTL drive. On the surface, the Zarkonians began establishing their forward base. General Thrax surveyed the captured colony equipment with disappointment. "Their technology is even more primitive than we thought," he told his officers. "Their weapons barely damaged our armor. Yet they managed to evacuate most of their people before we could stop them," his second-in-command pointed out. "And our casualties were higher than projected." Thrax waved this concern away. "Minor setbacks. The humans fought desperately because they had nowhere to retreat. When our main fleet reaches Earth, they will surrender quickly." But deep in the holding cells of the Zarkonian base, Kevin Collins had begun working on the restraints that held him. The aliens had underestimated human determination and human ingenuity. He had noticed a flaw in the cell's security system during his trips to interrogation. It would take time, but he would escape. And when he did, the Zarkonians would learn that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. Lisa Warren's small research vessel limped toward Earth after 23 days of difficult travel. The ship wasn't designed for long journeys, and she had needed to make constant repairs to keep it functioning. Food and water ran low. Sleep came in short bursts between system alarms. When Earth's defense fleet finally appeared on her sensors, Lisa cried with relief. She had made it. "Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. State your identity and purpose," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Lisa Warren, combat engineer from Hope Colony," she replied, her voice cracking. "I have important data on the Zarkonian attack, and I'm the only survivor." Within hours, Lisa found herself in a secure room at Earth Defense Headquarters. Military analysts Ryan Cooper and Grace Phillips listened intently as she described the fall of Hope Colony. Ryan, a tall man with serious eyes, checked the data on Ben's tablet as Lisa spoke. Grace, whose quick mind had earned her a top position despite her young age, took detailed notes. "The Zarkonians targeted our communication systems first," Lisa explained. "Then power. Their ground troops used some kind of neural link. They moved too perfectly together to be acting independently." Ryan nodded. "That matches what we've observed in their ship movements. The entire Zarkonian fleet operates like a single organism." "Which makes no sense biologically," Grace added. "No species should be able to coordinate that perfectly without some kind of technological assistance." Lisa pushed the tablet toward them. "That's why I risked everything to bring this back." Ben was recording sensor data throughout the attack. He thought something looked strange about their communication patterns. Ryan connected the tablet to the main system. Data flowed across the large screen on the wall. Complex patterns of energy signatures appeared, showing communication between Zarkonian ships and ground forces. Grace stared at the screen, her eyes widening. "Wait. Run that sequence again." Ryan replayed the data. Grace pointed to a repeating pattern. "There. See it? Their communications aren't random or even complex, they repeat. Every 67 seconds, the exact same pattern." "That's impossible," Ryan said. Unless it's encrypted using a fixed algorithm," Grace finished. "An algorithm we might be able to crack." The discovery was significant enough to bring Professor Daniel Martinez to the meeting. As Earth's leading expert on quantum computing, his insights were crucial. The professor studied the data carefully, his fingers drumming on the table. "The Zarkonians use quantum entanglement for instant communication across vast distances," he explained. "But what's interesting is they're using predictable encryption patterns. It's like they've never worried about anyone breaking their codes before. Because no one ever has, Ryan suggested. They've conquered 30 species without facing serious resistance. Daniel nodded. Their overconfidence is our opportunity. I believe we can create a virus that could infiltrate their neural network. And do what? Lisa asked. Disrupt it completely, Daniel replied. If their perfect coordination is their strength, chaos would be their weakness. While this plan developed on Earth, Kevin Collins was executing his own plan for escape. 3. Weeks of careful observation had revealed the patterns of the guards. The Zarkonians were creatures of habit, changing shifts at exactly the same time every day. Kevin had also discovered that the restraints holding him weakened when the cell's power cycled for daily diagnostics. It wasn't much, but it gave him a few seconds to work the bonds looser each day. Today would be his chance. He had weakened the restraints enough that one good pull during the power cycle might break them. And he had a plan for what came next. The lights flickered as the power cycle began. Kevin pulled with all his strength. Pain shot through his wrists as the restraints cut into his skin, but he kept pulling. With a snap, his right hand came free. Moving quickly, he released his other restraints and moved to the door. The guard would arrive in exactly 2 minutes for his daily interrogation. Kevin positioned himself behind the door and waited. When the Zarkonian guard entered, Kevin struck. The guard was stronger, but Kevin had surprise and desperation on his side. After a brief struggle, Kevin stood over the unconscious alien, now wearing his armor and carrying his weapon. The Zarkonian base had been built on top of Hope Colony's original structures. Kevin knew these buildings well. He made his way through the corridors, his stolen armor hiding his identity. His goal was clear: the communication center. Back on Earth, Professor Daniel had developed his virus. The elegant code would spread through the Zarkonian neural network, scrambling commands and creating false orders. But there was a problem. We need to deliver it directly to a main Zarkonian command ship, Daniel explained to the Earth Defense Council. Their network is isolated from external signals to prevent exactly this kind of attack. Admiral Gary Peterson, now in charge of Earth's defense, looked grim. So we need to get close enough to physically connect to their systems? Yes, Daniel confirmed. Someone has to carry this virus to their command ship and upload it manually. A suicide mission, someone muttered. Lisa spoke up from her seat at the back of the room. Not necessarily. I've studied their ships from the Hope Colony attack. Their ventilation systems have external access points. A small team could potentially infiltrate through those. Regardless, we need to act quickly, Ryan said. Our long-range scanners show the main Zarkonian invasion fleet is only 2 weeks from reaching Earth. On the captured Hope Colony, Kevin reached the communication center. He had to move carefully. As a low-ranking guard, his presence here would raise questions. He waited until the room was nearly empty during shift change, then slipped inside. The key Zarkonian communication system was alien, but Kevin's training helped him understand its basic functions. He couldn't send a detailed message to Earth. The Zarkonians would detect it instantly, but he could sabotage the system. Kevin worked quickly, rerouting connections and overriding safety protocols. When he finished, he activated the emergency test sequence, a standard procedure that sent a powerful signal burst to all Zarkonian ships in the system. Except Kevin had modified the signal. Instead of a simple test, it would overwhelm and damage the communication arrays of any ship that received it. The disruption would be temporary, but it might give Earth forces a brief advantage. Alarms blared as the system detected the unauthorized test. Kevin knew he had minutes at most before the entire base locked down. He ran for the landing bay where small scout ships were kept. On Earth, preparations for a desperate defense continued. The virus was loaded onto specialized data drives. A volunteer team was assembled for the dangerous mission to deliver it to the Zarkonian command ship. Commander Eric Wilson would lead the team. As an expert in stealth operations, he was the natural choice. Weapons specialist Melissa Garcia would provide tactical support. And despite objections, Lisa Warren insisted on joining them. "I know their ships," she argued. "I've seen how they operate up close. You need me." As the team trained, Earth's scientists made another breakthrough. Grace Phillips noticed something in the data from Hope Colony that everyone else had missed. "The Zarkonian neural network doesn't just coordinate their forces," she explained to Ryan. "It connects to their ship's life support systems. If we could access that," Ryan understood immediately, "we could threaten their entire fleet at once." Small alarm beeped on Grace's computer. She frowned and checked the notification. "We're receiving a transmission from a ship approaching the outer defense perimeter. It's using an old Hope Colony frequency." On the main screen, a tired, bruised face appeared. Kevin Collins had survived and escaped, and he brought more than just himself. "I've got a Zarkonian scout ship," he told them, "complete with their current security codes and navigation data, and I know exactly how their base on Hope Colony is structured." Daniel looked at the new information with growing excitement. "This changes everything. With these codes, we might be able to get our team directly onto their command ship without detection." For the first time since the Zarkonian attack began, a feeling of hope spread through Earth's defense headquarters. They still faced a powerful enemy with superior technology. The coming battle would cost many lives. But now they had a chance. "Their arrogance will be their downfall," Admiral Peterson said as he reviewed the final battle plans. "They think we're primitives. They expect us to surrender or die. They don't understand what humans do when cornered." "And what's that?" asked a young officer. The Admiral's face hardened. "We fight harder than anyone expects. And we never, ever give up." The day of humanity's counterattack arrived faster than anyone wanted. The Zarkonian invasion fleet had accelerated unexpectedly, giving Earth less preparation time than planned. Admiral Gary Peterson stood in the command center, watching as the final ships moved into position. Earth had assembled every available vessel, a mix of military ships, armed civilian craft, and hastily retrofitted transport vessels. "It's not enough," Gary thought, but kept his face calm for the officers around him. Against the Zarkonian armada, Earth's fleet looked like toys facing giants. "All ships report ready for Operation Trojan," announced his communications officer. Gary nodded. "Send the go-ahead signal, and may God help us all." Aboard the stealth insertion ship Shadow, Commander Eric Wilson ran through final equipment checks with his team. The small vessel had been modified with Zarkonian technology taken from Kevin Collins's stolen scout ship. If everything worked as planned, the Zarkonians would see them as one of their own support vessels. Weapons specialist Melissa Garcia secured the last of her explosives. "If we need these, it means everything has gone wrong." "Then let's make sure we don't need them," Eric replied. He turned to Lisa Warren. "Are you certain about the access point?" Lisa pointed to the holographic display showing the Zarkonian command ship. "Here, near the rear propulsion section. Environmental control access. Their security will be minimal because no one could survive the radiation levels outside the ship without protection." "Except us," Eric said with a grim smile. "Because we have their own shielding technology." The fourth member of their team, computer expert Joe Lewis, held up the small device containing Professor Daniel's virus. "One upload from this and their entire network crashes." In the Proxima Centauri system, 12 light-years from Earth, the main battle fleet waited. This would be a coordinated attack. While the stealth team infiltrated the Zarkonian command ship, Earth's forces would engage the invaders directly. The goal wasn't victory. That was impossible against such odds. They just needed to hold long enough for the virus to be deployed. Admiral Peterson gave the final address to the fleet. "Men and women of Earth, today, we face an enemy that believes we are weak, that we are primitive, that we will surrender rather than fight. They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before. Disease, climate change, our own weapons. Each time we survived by doing what humans do best, adapting and overcoming. Today will be no different." The Shadow launched first, slipping away quietly while the main fleet prepared. Using the stolen Zarkonian codes, they transmitted authorized identification signals. Heart rates increased as they approached the massive enemy formation, but no alarm sounded. The disguise was working. The Zarkonian fleet was immense. Over 300 vessels arranged in a perfect geometric formation. At its center floated the command ship, a vessel nearly 2 miles long. "I've never seen anything like it," whispered Melissa, staring at the display. "Stay focused," Eric reminded them. "We have one job. Everything else depends on us completing it." The shadow approached the command ship from below, using the radiation wake from the massive engines as additional cover. They reached the access point Lisa had identified without incident. "We're in position," Eric reported back to Earth. "Beginning infiltration." The 4-person team donned their specialized suits, modified versions of Zarkonian environmental gear that would protect them from the radiation and, hopefully, disguise them from internal sensors. Eric led them through the access hatch and into the labyrinthine interior of the enemy vessel. Meanwhile, Earth's main fleet jumped into the Proxima Centauri system, appearing at the edge of the Zarkonian formation. The battle began immediately. Zarkonian ships responded with terrifying efficiency, their weapons tearing through the first line of Earth vessels in seconds. Admiral Peterson watched from the bridge of his flagship as the casualties mounted. "Hold the line," he ordered. "We need to keep their attention for as long as possible." Inside the Zarkonian command ship, Eric's team moved carefully through maintenance tunnels. Lisa's knowledge of the ship's layout proved accurate, though twice they had to hide from Zarkonian repair crews. "The central network hub should be 2 levels up," she whispered, checking the stolen schematics. As they climbed, a general alarm sounded throughout the ship. "They've detected us," Melissa said, readying her weapon. But Joe shook his head, monitoring the Zarkonian communications on. "A stolen device. No, it's the battle. Their ships are fully engaging Earth's fleet." Eric felt a mixture of relief and dread. The plan was working, but Earth's forces were now dying to buy them time. They needed to move faster. The central network hub was a massive chamber filled with glowing equipment. Energy patterns flowed visibly through transparent conduits, connecting to thousands of terminals. 3 Zarkonian technicians worked at control stations. "We need them out of there," Eric whispered. Melissa smiled and pulled out a small device. "Diversion coming up." She tossed the device down a side corridor, where it began emitting radiation signatures identical to a critical system failure. The Zarkonian technicians responded immediately, rushing toward the false alarm. "Now," Eric ordered. The team sprinted to the central terminal. Joe connected the virus device while the others stood guard. "Upload beginning," Joe reported. 30 seconds to completion. In space, the battle went badly for humanity. Over 40 Earth ships had already been destroyed. Admiral Peterson's flagship took a direct hit, knocking out its main weapons. "Reroute power to the shields," he ordered calmly. "Keep us in the fight." On the Zarkonian command ship, High Commander Vexillar watched the battle with satisfaction. These humans fought with more spirit than expected, but the outcome was inevitable. "Begin the second attack wave," he ordered. "Target their largest vessels first." Just as his officers moved to obey, something strange happened. The display screens flickered. Communications became garbled. "What is happening?" Vexillar demanded. "Unknown, High Commander," his chief officer responded. "We are detecting a system anomaly in the central network." Back in the network hub, Joe watched the upload complete. "It's done. The virus is deployed." "Now we get out of here," Eric said. "Back to the ship, quickly." But as they turned to leave, 4 Zarkonian guards blocked their path, weapons raised. "Humans," one of them snarled in his own language, which their stolen communication devices translated. "Surrender or die." Melissa reacted first, throwing a smoke grenade that filled the corridor. In the confusion, Eric and Lisa managed to take down 2 guards. Joe and Melissa handled the others, but the alarm was now raised throughout the ship. "New plan," Eric said. "We split up. Multiple targets are harder to catch than one. Meet at the extraction point in 10 minutes. The team separated, each taking a different route through the ship. Behind them, the virus spread through the Zarkonian network. In the battle, the effect was immediately visible. The perfect formation of Zarkonian ships began to break down. Some vessels fired on their allies, others lost power and drifted aimlessly. Admiral Peterson saw the change and seized the opportunity. All ships press the attack. Focus on disabled vessels. Earth's forces, though decimated, surged forward with renewed determination. On the command ship, Vexlar watched in horror as his fleet fell into chaos. "What is happening to our network?" he shouted. "We've been infected with some kind of virus," his technology officer replied. "It's rewriting command protocols faster than we can counter it. Shut down the network. If we do that, we lose all coordination across the fleet. And if we don't, we destroy ourselves." Vexlar slammed his fist on the control panel. "Shut it down now." The order came too late. Critical systems throughout the ship began failing as the virus reached life support controls. Emergency protocols activated sealing sections of the ship to prevent complete destruction. In the confusion, Eric and his team fought their way back to their access point. Lisa was hit by a Zarkonian weapon, the energy blast burning through her suit into her shoulder. "Leave me," she gasped as Eric pulled her along. "Complete the mission." "No one gets left behind," Eric replied firmly. "That's not how humans operate." They reached the shadow with seconds to spare, Zarkonian forces closing in behind them. As the ship detached from the command vessel, Melissa fired their remaining explosives, creating a barrier of debris that bought them time to escape. Admiral Peterson watched in amazement as the mighty Zarkonian fleet collapsed into disorder. Earth ships, though badly damaged, pressed their advantage, capturing several enemy vessels including the command ship itself. When the battle ended, humanity had suffered terrible losses. Nearly 70% of their fleet was destroyed or disabled. But against all odds, they had won. The Zarkonian invasion was stopped, and among the prisoners taken from the command ship was High Commander Vexlar himself, the architect of the invasion and the highest authority of the Zarkonian Empire, present in the system. The first battle for Earth survival was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Zarkonian Empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. They would not accept this defeat easily. The real war was just beginning. 1 week after the battle in the Proxima Centauri system, High Commander Vexlar stood in a secure room aboard Earth's orbital defense station. His wrists were bound, but he maintained the proud bearing of a Zarkonian military leader. Across, From him sat Admiral Gary Peterson, Commander Eric Wilson, and several members of Earth's Defense Council. "Your resistance was impressive," Vexlar admitted, speaking through a translation device. "No species has ever defeated a full Zarkonian battle group before, but you must understand, what you faced was merely an advance force. The Empire spans 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. When they learn of this setback, they will send a fleet 10 times larger." Gary exchanged glances with the other humans. They had expected this. The captured Zarkonian ships had contained star charts showing the true extent of the Empire. Earth had won a battle, but the war seemed impossible to win. "How long before your main fleet arrives?" Gary asked. Vexlar made a gesture that translated to a smile in Zarkonian culture. "Our quantum communication network has already alerted them. They will arrive within 3 of your months. This planet will be reduced to ash." Eric stepped forward. "Tell us about your network, the one we disrupted." "A temporary inconvenience," Vexlar said dismissively. "Our engineers have already developed countermeasures against your virus. The next fleet will be immune." The door to the room opened, and Dr. Olivia Mason entered. She had been part of the original diplomatic mission that first met the Zarkonians. Now she served as the lead scientist studying captured Zarkonian technology. "I think you should see this," she said to Gary, handing him a datapad. Gary read the information, his expression changing from concern to surprise. He passed the pad to Eric, who showed similar reaction. "Is this confirmed?" Gary asked. Olivia nodded. Professor Daniel verified it himself. "The Zarkonian quantum network doesn't just connect their ships in this system. It links to every Zarkonian military installation throughout their empire. For the first time, Vexillar showed a flicker of concern. What have you done? Gary turned back to him. When we uploaded our virus to your command ship, we didn't just affect your invasion fleet. The virus traveled through your quantum communication system. Right now it's spreading to every military installation in the Zarkonian Empire. Impossible, Vexillar hissed. Our network is secure. Apparently not, Eric said. You never expected anyone to hack it, so you never properly secured it against internal threats. Olivia displayed a holographic map showing the spread of the virus through Zarkonian space. Red indicators lit up across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy as military bases lost contact or reported system failures. Your biggest advantage was your perfect coordination, Gary explained. Now it's your greatest vulnerability. Vexillar's face had lost its blue color, fading to a pale gray. You cannot comprehend what you've done. The Empire has existed for 2,000 years. We have subjugated 32 species. And now they're breaking free, Olivia added. We're receiving transmissions from worlds throughout your empire. As your military bases lose power and control, the populations you've enslaved are rising up. In another room nearby, Lisa Warren was meeting with Kevin Collins, who had recovered from his injuries during captivity. They were reviewing schematics of the Zarkonian homeworld defense systems, extracted from the captured ships' databases. Their entire civilization depends on this network, Kevin noted. Not just military, but power distribution, food production, everything. Lisa nodded. They built an empire based on perfect control. Without it, they're vulnerable. Back in the interrogation room, Admiral Susan Brooks entered. She had been directing Earth's diplomatic efforts to contact other species oppressed by the Zarkonians. We've made contact with representatives from 7 formerly subjugated worlds, she informed the group. They're offering alliance and support. Apparently, the Zarkonians weren't well loved as rulers. Vexillar looked from face to face, gradually understanding the full extent of what had happened. You primitive creatures, he whispered. Do you realize what you've done? The chaos you've unleashed across the galaxy? We defended ourselves, Gary stated simply. Something you didn't think we could do. Susan placed a small device on the table, a quantum entanglement communicator taken from the Zarkonian command ship. This can send one final message to your empire's leadership, one chance to prevent further bloodshed. Vexillar stared at the device. What message? Eric stepped forward. Tell them to run. Run? Vexillar seemed confused. Yes, Gary confirmed. Because if they come back, we won't just defend Earth this time. We have their navigation data. We have ships with their technology. And we have 32 newly freed species who want revenge. Dr. Olivia Mason explained the situation in terms the Zarkonian could understand. Your empire studied human biology but missed something crucial. We evolved on a predator-filled world where adaptability meant survival. Our history is filled with smaller forces defeating larger ones through innovation and determination. When threatened, humans don't cower, Susan added. We become more dangerous. Eric nodded. You should have studied our history. Napoleon, Alexander, Genghis Khan, all built empires that seemed unstoppable and all eventually fell. Your people have a choice, Gary said, pushing the quantum communicator toward Vexillar. Rebuild your society without conquest, or face a galaxy united against you. Send the message. Vexillar's hands trembled as he reached for the device. The Zarkonian Empire had never known defeat. For 2,000 years they had only expanded, only conquered. The concept of retreat was foreign, shameful. But as he looked at the determined faces of these humans, this species that had not only survived the Empire's attack but turned it against them, he understood something new. Fear. What should I say? He asked quietly. The truth, Gary replied. That you underestimated us. That the cost of continuing this war will be the end of your civilization. Vexillar activated the communicator. The device linked instantly to the Imperial, high command across the vast distance of space. In his native language, he began to explain what had happened. but his words faltered as he tried to describe the complete reversal of fortune. Finally, he simplified his message to a single word that would be understood by every member of his species: run. The humans observed silently as Vexler completed his transmission. When he finished, the room was quiet for several long moments. "Will they listen?" Susan finally asked. "They have no choice," Vexler replied softly. "Your virus has crippled our military capability. It will take years to rebuild a secure network. By then," he didn't finish the thought. In the days that followed, Earth began preparing for a new future. The captured Zarkonian technology accelerated human development by centuries. Engineers Lisa Warren and Ryan Cooper led teams adapting the alien ships for human use. Professor Daniel Martinez worked with Kevin Collins to develop new security systems based on what they had learned about quantum communication. Earth's defensive perimeter expanded, with new monitoring stations established throughout the solar system. But the focus wasn't solely on military preparation. Susan Brooks led diplomatic missions to the worlds formerly under Zarkonian control, building alliances and trade agreements. 3 months passed, then 6. No Zarkonian fleet appeared. Reports from the far reaches of the galaxy indicated that the Empire had turned inward, focusing on rebuilding their shattered network and dealing with rebellions on many of their worlds. On the 1-year anniversary of the battle at Proxima Centauri, Admiral Gary Peterson stood with his officers at a memorial service honoring those who had died defending Earth. The monument listed thousands of names, crews of ships lost in battle, civilians from Hope Colony who never escaped. "They gave everything so humanity could survive," Gary said to the assembled crowd. "But they did more than save our world. They changed the galaxy. For 2,000 years, the Zarkonian Empire expanded unchallenged. Because of these brave men and women, 32 species are now free." After the ceremony, Eric Wilson walked with Olivia Mason through the memorial garden. Both wore the new uniform of Earth's interstellar fleet, created from the combined military forces of Earth. "Do you think they'll come back?" Olivia asked quietly. Eric looked up at the stars visible through the garden's transparent dome. "Someday, perhaps. But we'll be ready, and we won't be alone." On a view screen nearby, news played showing the latest diplomatic summit on Earth. Representatives from 15 formerly subjugated species had arrived to discuss mutual defense and cultural exchange. The galaxy was entering a new era, one where cooperation might replace conquest. The legend of humanity's victory spread across the stars, how a single species, facing their first interstellar war, had brought down an empire with a virus and a message. A simple message that changed everything. Run.